Hello everyone and welcome to a really wild Armageddon game between Wesley So and Hikaru Nakamura. Even though we already had the finals of Airthings Masters between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura, now Wesley and Hikaru are playing for the privilege of facing Magnus again in the grand final of the Airthings Masters. It's a weird new concept. But as Magnus already defeated Hikaru in the finals, if Hikaru now goes into the grand final against Magnus and he beats Magnus, then they will play another match, sort of because Hikaru already lost to Magnus. But if Wesley wins, and then he faces Magnus in the grand final, then Wesley will be the winner of it all. So a bit of a weird new concept, but could be interesting. We'll see how it goes. So first you have to win the game, and it's Armageddon. The first game, okay, Hikaru was not Hikaru. Wesley was better a little bit, but he couldn't pull off a win. Second game they agreed to a draw very quickly, and now this is Armageddon. Let's see what happens. We have pawn to e4 by Wesley, and Hikaru got the black pieces as he bid 8 minutes, which is incredibly low, but he really wanted black to make his chances in Armageddon go a bit higher. But if anyone can win on demand, it is Wesley So e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and now d4. Wesley goes for his Scotch. We have e captures on d4, knight captures, and knight to f6, the Schmidt variation. Knight captures, b captures, and pawn to e5. We have knight to d5, all very standard here. c4 here is the main move, bishop to d3, second most common idea. We have d6, captures, captures, and bishop to e4. Now, only one game ever reached this position, and in that game, queen to e7 was played. Here we have bishop to a6, a very nice pawn sacrifice by Hikaru. Who knows how long he's been preparing this one, but it definitely shouldn't be pleasant to play this. So okay, Wesley accepts the sacrifice, bishop captures, pawn captures, and queen captures. And now Wesley's up a pawn, but his king will be stuck in the center, at least for the moment. He will probably have to play some like a knight to c3, bishop d2 or e3, and castle queen side. So it's going to be a very sharp game. Rook to c8. You could also consider something like queen to e7 check, but it just doesn't do all that much. For example, queen e7 check, bishop to e3. I mean, the rook is hanging. Let's say rook to c8, knight to c3, and there's not much for black to do here. Like if you play g6, it's already game over. The rook is hanging, and bishop to a4 check will pick up the bishop, so black will just resign here. So instead, just rook to c8, you will play bishop to e7 and just castle. Knight to c3 with bishop to e7, and now bishop to e3. Bishop to c4, getting the queen off of such an active square. Queen to d2 and queen to a5 now. We have pawn to a3 and pawn to d5. We have knight to d1. Wesley offers a queen trade and Hikaru declines with queen to c7. We have bishop d4 attacking g7 and Hikaru just castles here. We have knight to e3 and bishop to g5 now, pinning the knight here. Castles by Wesley, and now rook f to e8. We have king to b1, unpinning from this nasty diagonal, and now pawn to a5. We have pawn to h4, expanding on the king side, or you want to of course play h5, h6, and put pressure on that g7 pawn. So here Hikaru says, all right, let's just trade, captures, captures, and I'm gonna stop your advancement with pawn to h5 now. If Wesley was really desperate to try anything here, g4 might not actually be a bad try, just to open up lines of attack in front of the black king, but he goes rook h to e1. We have a4 and now bishop to d4. Wesley is just up a clean pawn, and he doesn't have all that much to worry about. As long as the c2 pawn is protected, he can just trade and try and enjoy his extra pawn. We have pawn to f6 by Hikaru, limiting the power of this dark square bishop. We have rook captures on e8, rook captures, and now rook to e1, offering a rook trade. Hikaru defends his rook, and now rook to e3. Hikaru trades with captures, captures, and queen to g4 now. And Hikaru says, all right, you're still up a pawn, but my position is very solid. Bishops are of opposite colors. If you trade queens, it's not going to be easy. And one thing I have to worry about is something like queens coming off the board, Wesley getting his king to c3 and then just playing b3 creating two connected pass pawns on the queen side, that could be a problem. So okay, g3, Wesley defends the h4 pawn, queen h3, and now queen to d1. We have queen to f5 and king to c1. We have queen to e5 and now bishop to d4. Chases away the queen, queen e4, bishop to e3, and queen to e5 now. We have queen to d4, and Hikaru declines the trade for the reason that we already gave. If you trade here, then it's just getting the king to c3 and playing b3. It's very, very hard to stop this. Let's say king g6, king c3, king f5, g3, b3 captures, and the two connected pass pawns will be, well, pretty much unstoppable. So instead, queen to f5, we have king to d2, and now queen to d7. We have king to c3, king to h7, and now pawn to b3. The pass pawns are now created. We have bishop to b5. Hikaru says, all right, if you want to capture, at least let's mess up your pawn structure. So queen to c5 puts pressure on the bishop. Now the king is coming to b4 as well. King to h8, Hikaru just, doing nothing, waiting to see what Wesley will try. King to b4 attacks the bishop, and the bishop back to e2. We have king to c3, and now bishop back to b5. We have king to b2, and now king to h7. Hikaru says, I'm happy with a draw here. A draw is victory in Armageddon. So Wesley has to try something. Bishop to d4, we have king to h8, now bishop to c3, and bishop to c6. Just keeping an eye on everything. Queen to d4, and now king to g8. We have queen to f4, and now king to f7, bishop to d4, and now queen to e7. So not much happening here. Queen to e3, Wesley offers a queen trade, and Hikaru again declines. We have bishop to c5. Now you have to be careful, otherwise you might allow the white queen to infiltrate if the black queen moves. So king to g8, we have queen to e7, and now queen to c8. We have queen to d6, and king to h7. Hikaru just still standing still. Bishop to d4, and now queen to e8. We have pawn to f3 now. A captures on b3, and now we have king captures on b3. You could also play c captures on b3. Probably Wesley thought this was better to prevent any checks from the second rank. This way he will be able to avoid more checks, and he still does have the passed a pawn. So bishop to a4 check, king to b2, and now queen to e2, putting pressure on that c2 pawn. So queen c7 defends the pawn, and also might be having some nasty ideas of bishop captures on f6. So just queen to b5 with check, king to c3, and now king to g6, getting the king out of harm's way. King to d2, queen to f1, putting pressure on that f3 pawn, and just queen to c3, nicely defending. Queen to g2 with check, king to c1, and now queen captures on g3. We have queen to d3 with check, king to f7, and now queen to f5, putting pressure on that d5 pawn. So queen captures on h4, queen captures on d5 with check, king to g6, and now king to b2. We have queen to f4, and now queen to c4. Not all that much to do for Wesley now. It is Hikaru who will be pushing for the win, as that h pawn does seem to be unstoppable. So queen to b8. Queen to b8 with check. We have king to c3, and now queen to b5, offering a queen trade. Here you have to trade. There's really not all that much you can try here. We have captures, and now interestingly there is a way to save the game, but Wesley doesn't really gain anything by that. So Wesley played something other than the move that saves the game, but just in case you guys are interested, feel free to pause the video and try to find the only move that saves the game for white while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on being a true master of the end game. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is king to d2. This is the only move that saves the game. You have to beat that h-pawn before it becomes a queen. For example, h4, you're going to play king to e3, and now you are very happy. If something like pawn to h2, you can play king to f2, and you will be in time to stop that pawn. And if you don't even try it all the way, after, let's say, king to e3, let's say bishop to d7, you can just play whatever, king to f2, and again, you are in time, and you will be stopping this pawn. And now, slowly but surely, you will figure out a way how to start advancing your own pawns. However, in the game, Wesley played king to b4, and this is now just straight out winning for Hikaru. He plays bishop to e2, goes after the f3 pawn. That was the one that you had to go after, and there's no good way to save it. If you play something like pawn to f4, then king f5. And I mean, there's not all that much to be done here. If bishop e3, now h4, you cannot defend both this and the h2 square. You have to defend the h2 square in order to prevent h3, h2. So let's say a4, you're going to play h3, bishop to g1, you have to stop this. Now king captures a5, king to g3, now king to c5, and you don't really care. King to g2, the bishop has to move, and you win the game easily. And the bishop covers the a6 square, so you don't have to worry about the a pawn. So instead, after bishop e2, a4 was played by Wesley, but now bishop captures on f3, pawn to c4, and king to f5. We have king to c5, and here king to e6 was played, and he was in this position on move 70 that Wesley so resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So the reason you resign here is because the bishop is too strong. There's just no way to push those pawns for white. You're blockading your own pawns. You're going to have to waste a few moves to block the bishop, but even that will not help you. It's actually a funny line, so I will show it. Let's say g5, you have to push both of these pawns, otherwise the bishop will be able to stop them. A6, h4, a7, g4. Now you're going to have to move the king to block the bishop with your c pawn. h3, bishop to g1, you have to stop h2, g3, c5, h2, you're going to have to give up the bishop. Now c6, you are blocking the queening square, but now look at this, just bishop captures on c6, king captures and h1 queen, and that's pretty much it. You're going to blockade the pawn, and that's all there is to it. So yeah, after king to e6, Wesley resigns, and Hikaru will get another crack at Magnus. He proceeds into the grand final, where he will face Magnus again. So like I said, if Hikaru now wins the match, then they will go into the grand final, where whoever wins will be the winner of Airthings Masters. But if Hikaru loses in the grand final, then that is truly it. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Wesley tried everything to win here. He was in a must-win situation. That's how Armageddon works, and he went for his... I believe this is Wesley's pet line. I think he even has a win against, well, a lot of players, but against Garry Kasparov, amongst others. So he definitely knows his stuff, which I think, of course, Hikaru knew. I think... they even played together this line several times, maybe like it was a tournament, I think, called Ultimate Moves, sometimes maybe during 2016, where I believe this line was very, very popular, and that Wesley actually played it against Hikaru. I don't know if he played it against Hikaru, I'm pretty sure he played it against Kasparov, but yeah. Obviously, Hikaru knows that, and he knows how to play against it. And what a spectacular line to prepare this beautiful pawn sacrifice, just cutting off the king from castling king's side, forcing him to go into opposite side castles. I mean, beautiful stuff by Hikaru here. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Kerry Smith, Martin Alden, Marcus Grebel, Bocho, and Kenneth Fraser for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the finals, of the grand finals, of the grand finals, and however many finals they come up with. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.